Olivia grew up in the States. Unfortunately, around the neighborhood she grew up in, discrimination was still pretty common. As a black woman in the neighborhood, she often received racist comments. Just going shopping was a hustle. As she received many side eyes and sometimes cruel comments like, "This is not a place for blacks." Every time such an incident happened, Olivia felt hopeless and sad, yet she had to learn to brush it off in order to stay sane. That is why she learned to be tenacious and kept it cool no matter what she was told. Yet as she grew up, she started facing a lot more frustrations in such society. In the company where she worked, she missed out on many opportunities to be promoted as the bosses visibly favored white people. No matter how well she did her job, her opportunity was limited purely based on her skin color. Even when she tried to rent a room, she was rejected for the same reason. Which is why Olivia still lives with her parents at their home. Because she is getting along well with her family, this is not a problem at all. However, for Olivia, who became an adult and wanted to be emotionally and financially independent, the current situation was quite frustrating. Olivia's way to unwind is by reminiscing about her beloved Japan. Back when she was a student, she discovered her love for Japanese anime and manga. And she was fascinated by the creativity of Japanese people. But she believes that Japan's greatness extends far beyond just anime and manga. Olivia often thinks that Japanese food might just be the best in the world. She particularly loves white rice. So much so that the first thing she bought with her first paycheck was indeed a rice cooker. Her favorite combo is freshly cooked white rice topped with pickled plums or seaweed-flavored tsukudani. She practically lives on white rice almost every day. Because of Olivia, her parents also developed a deep love for Japanese cuisine. Sushi is something Olivia and her parents both adore. They had never tried raw fish before, but their first experience with sushi left them stunned. They were speechless at the deliciousness of the fresh fish spreading in their mouths. The combination of the sourness of the sushi rice with wasabi and soy sauce was magnificent, creating a perfect balance. Filled with a feeling of happiness, she can even easily say sushi is her most favorite Japanese food. And then finally, Olivia's long-awaited dream came true as she planned a trip to Japan. She felt a bit nervous because her first solo trip was abroad. But her excitement far outweighed any worries, as she was in high spirits. Upon landing in Japan, Olivia savored the joy of being there and headed straight to Akihabara, the holy land of anime. Akihabara seemed popular not just amongst Japanese, but also amongst visitors from various countries. Their eyes were gleaming with excitement as they walked around, while Olivia visited the shops she had been eyeing. She encountered a moment where she got side eyes. Assuming it has to do with her skin color, these incidents almost spoiled her happiness. But she quickly brushed it off, telling herself not to take them seriously. Buying lots of merch of her favorite characters from anime and manga filled her heart with contentment. While getting the items she wanted was satisfying, an equally joyous event awaited her. Although Olivia prepared for the trip by learning a little bit of Japanese, she was surprised by how friendly and conversational the shop staff were in English. Everyone greeted her with smiles, leaving Olivia pleasantly surprised. The Japanese people's polite and hospitable customer service, along with their proactive approach to communicating with customers. Moreover, what surprised her the most was that no Japanese person ever made remarks about her being black. In the States, depending on the place, she often felt unwelcomed and even heard hurtful comments being made about her. However, in Japan, she experienced none of those negative attitudes. which made her extremely happy. She had long felt restricted just because of her race. But here in Japan, she didn't have to feel like that at all. She had never experienced such a situation before. Initially drawn in by anime, then captivated by the food, Olivia had fallen in love with Japan. But it was the kindness of the Japanese people that truly moved her. Filled with happiness on her very first day in Japan, Olivia decided to have dinner at a sushi restaurant listed in her guidebook. This place, frequented by many foreign visitors, was described as relaxed and cozy in the guidebook, which appealed to her. However, she faced a small problem here. She knew she could get there by using a combination of trains and buses. But the complexity of the Japanese train map left her bewildered. She attempted to buy a train ticket, but struggled to understand the transfer process. At that moment, a Japanese person standing behind her approached her. Olivia thought she would be told to move aside. But instead, the person asked her where she wanted to go. Showing the guidebook and telling the nearest station to the sushi restaurant. The Japanese person politely guided her and even showed her how to buy the ticket. All those efforts to convey instructions in broken English left a lasting impression on Olivia. But that wasn't all. The Japanese person went above and beyond to write down the transfer details to the nearest station, and how to catch the bus upon arriving there on a piece of paper. For Olivia, who had never experienced such kindness before, it was a series of surprises. When she expressed her gratitude, the person waved with a smile and left gracefully. Olivia was once again moved by the kindness and incredible sophistication of the Japanese. Relying on the note, she finally managed to arrive at the sushi restaurant, her intended destination. However, as she stood in front of the shop, a vague sense of anxiety crept over her. Though the guidebook mentioned it was popular among foreigners, Olivia, being black, wondered if it was okay for her to enter just like anyone else. As she tentatively pushed the door open, a staff member dressed in a yukata approached her immediately. "Hello, thank you for coming," the staff greeted Olivia with a smile, instantly easing her worries. She was guided to a spacious open counter bar, being served a cup of hot green tea and a wet towel. Given an English menu, Olivia was carefully briefed on the day's specials, which made her feel warmly welcomed and appreciated. Opting for the recommended omakase course, Olivia observed intently the masterful hands of the sushi chef as he diligently crafted each piece. The chef responded briefly to her orders, glancing at Olivia. Olivia had initially worried about being told something nasty due to her skin color. But instead, the chef slightly loosened his stern expression, giving her a thumbs up. His gesture of approval filled her with joy, prompting her to smile back. As more foreigners arrived, the counter bar quickly filled up. Despite the bustling atmosphere, the meticulously clean interior made her feel at ease. And she was completely absorbed in the chef's craftsmanship, paying no attention to the other customers' conversations. Soon, a small dish, the starter for the course meal, was placed in front of Olivia. This appetizer, called a otoshi, was a small dish served as a snack to accompany drinks. Olivia had learned that it was a way for restaurants to acknowledge receipt of the customer's order, a practice not common in the States. Impressed by the very Japanese thoughtful service, which could avoid just waiting for nothing, Olivia savored each dish with delight. With each dish served promptly and explained in detail by the staff, Olivia felt immersed in a truly special dining experience. Following sashimi and then steamed egg custard, finally, the freshly made sushi was presented before Olivia. Each piece, crafted by the master chef, was beautiful like a work of art. filling her heart with contentment just by looking at them. Feeling a mix of curiosity and nervousness about tasting authentic sushi, Olivia carefully picked up a piece with her chopsticks and brought it to her mouth. Actually, she had only ever eaten sushi from local supermarkets. Despite her curiosity about conveyor belt sushi restaurants, she hesitated to visit one, expecting to be refused entry because of her race. She even attempted to recreate sushi at home a few times. However, she struggled from the very beginning, especially with making the sour sushi rice. It never turned out as she hoped. The rice was too firm, and the texture of the fish was not that good. Her sushi didn't match her expectations. Olivia had heard that it takes several years to decades for sushi chefs in Japan to become fully trained, and she thought this must be true at the moment when she tasted the freshly made sushi. Until she placed it in her mouth, the rice held together perfectly yet was soft as if it contained some air. And at the moment when she placed it in her mouth, the vinegar flavor gently unfolded, harmonizing with the toppings to create a delightful taste sensation. The subtle kick of wasabi added a pleasant heat, causing Olivia to close her eyes and savor every bite, enjoying the exquisite flavor of the sushi. While attempting to recreate sushi at home, Olivia found it challenging to slice the raw fish properly, resulting in a rough texture, which let her down. But the sushi here was on a completely different level. The surface of the sliced fish was incredibly smooth, melting in her mouth as soon as it touched her tongue. Impressed by the chef's years of experience, Olivia savored each piece thoughtfully, grateful for the opportunity to experience such masterfully crafted sushi. Just as she was feeling deeply grateful for her decision to come to Japan, Olivia faced an unexpected incident. Another foreign man entered the restaurant. However, upon seeing Olivia, he visibly frowned and seemed displeased. He didn't have much belongings, talking joyfully with the chef and staff. He might have visited this place several times. Olivia thought he must have come to Japan many years ago because he was speaking Japanese fluently, while engaging in friendly conversation with the chef and staff. He repeatedly glanced at her, frowning irritatingly. It was uncomfortable enough for Olivia, but she tried to distract herself by focusing on the sushi in front of her. However, the foreign man eventually pointed at Olivia and shouted loudly at her. "What is Black doing here?" Then, the entire restaurant fell silent in an instant. Nevertheless, he continued his tirade. "This isn't a place for Black people to come. Just seeing you makes me uncomfortable. Why did you let a Black person into the restaurant? In my home country, we never make white people uncomfortable like this." He not only criticized Olivia but also began to condemn the staff's response. Other customers looked on with confusion, alternating their gazes between Olivia and the man. The chef, focused on making sushi, didn't acknowledge the man's outbursts. She realized that continuing to dine would only cause trouble for the restaurant, despite still having sushi left. With that in mind, Olivia set down her chopsticks and stood up. Seeing her reaction, the man smirked satisfactorily and confidently returned to his seat at the counter bar. As she picked up her belongings, a staff member rushed over to her. Just as she was about to apologize for causing trouble, the chef, with a stern expression, uttered unbelievable words to the man sitting at the counter bar. "You are not welcome to eat sushi here. Please leave," leaving both the man and Olivia stunned. The staff member smiled at Olivia, encouraging her to sit back down. Confused, she complied, and the chef, who was making sushi without interruption, paused and stood firm before the man. Then, cutting through the heavy atmosphere, he addressed the man directly. I simply want our customers to enjoy our food. Therefore, I don't want people like you, who casually utter hurtful words, in this restaurant. I don't want you to eat our sushi either. I find it extremely unpleasant to impose your opinion without considering others, not realizing that you're disturbing other customers. I kindly ask you never to come back to this restaurant again. While Olivia found it challenging to fully understand Japanese, she comprehended the chef's criticism of the foreign man's behavior and his request for him to leave. In response, the foreign man, seemingly offended by the chef's words, erupted in English. I didn't say anything wrong. I was just telling you ignorant Japanese the truth. Defending a black person is crazy. Though anyone who understood English would find his behavior unpleasant, the chef remained cool and calmly responded. Who's the crazy one here, I wonder? I can't understand a word you're saying. Please leave. Don't ruin the enjoyable dining experience for others any further. I despise people who impose their values on others and exclude them. The other customers nodded vigorously at his words, glaring at the still noisy man. Sensing he had no allies, the man with his face red with anger spat out a string of vile words before hastily fleeing the restaurant. After he left, cheers and applause erupted from the other customers, their spirits buoyed by the chef's decisive rejection of discrimination. In the face of this unexpected turn of events, where it was not herself but the one making discriminatory remarks who was expelled, Olivia remained stunned, unable to move. Japanese people aren't typically the type to express their likes and dislikes so clearly to others. They often use vague language that could be interpreted as both yes and no. There are even some phrases that we cannot tell whether their meaning is positive or negative. In this way, Japanese people strive to use vague language to avoid hurting others. It's often said that negative opinions are often communicated in a roundabout way to maintain good relationships with others. Olivia understood this as well. However, the chef unequivocally stated his dislike for that man. Clearly, the man's attitude had provoked him so much. For a Japanese person, who rarely shows anger over trivial matters, to become so enraged indicated just how unforgivable the words directed at Olivia were. Despite this, the chef continued to work as if nothing had happened, apologizing to Olivia and the other customers by offering an additional dish as a gesture of goodwill. Olivia couldn't help but be moved by the exceptional care shown by the restaurant staff. After expressing her gratitude to the chef and staff once again, the chef smiled and said, "Thank you for coming all this way to enjoy our sushi. There may be plenty of thoughtless people out there, but at least here, you don't have to worry. I'll chase them away if I have to." With a smile that crinkled his dignified expression, the chef urged Olivia to continue her meal. Olivia had never felt such peace of mind outside her own home before. Since coming to Japan, Olivia had been continually helped by the kindness of the Japanese people. Their wonderful quality of treating everyone equally without prejudice, and their straightforward desire to provide genuine hospitality, all without judging people by appearances, had filled Olivia's heart with joy and gratitude. Following this incident, Olivia enthusiastically shares how she diligently works in order to visit Japan again. Whenever she visits Japan, she always goes to the sushi restaurant where the chef works, enjoying lighthearted conversations and savoring freshly made sushi. The chef, who has taken a liking to Olivia, warmly welcomes her every time they meet. Thanks to these experiences, Olivia has become even more enamored with Japan. and she feels less inclined to dwell on past experiences of discrimination. She confidently states that Japan is a wonderful country that accepts everyone without discrimination, regardless of who they are.